All all right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome and thanks for joining our 2022 UBC Dietetics Undergrad Program Prospective Student Info Session. And my name is Xin Yan Fan. I'm the Dietetics Program Assistant, and what will be today's event coordinator. So before we start today, I do want to say something about the housekeeping regarding the Zoom environment. We will record today's event. So if you do not want to appear on the video, feel free to turn your camera off. And just for the quality of our presentation, please mute yourself when we speak or other people speaking. COVID-19 really changes our lifestyle, right? And we continue to approach events in a virtual environment. And we do find out that it's actually really helpful and make it accessible to a lot of students, no matter where you are. So we hope today's event can answer your questions, maybe give you more advice toward preparing your admission and application. So speaking of living maybe somewhere else or here and there, I do want to uh, take a moment to really think about the land we are standing on. So I acknowledge that I'm presenting from my office on Vancouver, UBC Vancouver campus, which is on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. As we connect virtually today, I would also encourage you to reflect the traditional and ancestral territory you are living on, you work and you play on. All right. So just a quick look at today's agenda. We'll spend a little bit of time to introduce our panelists, and we'll go over about what is our dietetics undergrad program, and speak to you about the admission highlights and try to save a little more chunk of time and space for you to raise a question and answer all your concerns. So we're gonna use the Slido as our platform to raise the question, and the Zoom chat box, we will post you maybe links and other resources. So don't worry if you don't get a chance to scan a QR code here. Now I will just copy paste the link to the channel and you can join. And later on, I will post the QR code again. Okay, so here is a quick glance at our team. So we have two members today joining us. First of all is our program director, Dr. Tamara Cohen. Um, yeah, she's waving her hands there. Later on, I will have a short interview with her regarding our program overview. And we have another team member, Ali Browse, who's one of our dietetics education program educator and coordinator. And we also have three other members, Tamar Kafka, Gordon Lee, and Carol Walk. They're away today, but when you getting to know more about our program, you will have the idea about what they're doing, lots of fun stuff, and work they're doing now. We are very happy and honored to have two other panelists join us today. We have the LFS advisor, Ella Wong, who is also being on the panelist here today. Probably some of our audience definitely know her. You go through general advising about your BSFN program requirement and how to get that into it. Also, maybe you get some support for non-degree registration for the courses. The other one I want to introduce is Rob Kim, who's the career strategist for our LFS faculty. So Rob, do you want to say something about, Rob has some good announcement about the uh, uh, resume and cover letter event.
Yeah, I'll share it in the chat. I have a resume webinar that I'll be doing for dietetics, prospective dietetics students on I think December 22nd, and then a cover letter one for the 23rd. So I'll put it all in the chat, and then I'll put it at the end of the chat as well. So there'll be a bunch of links and resources there.
Thank you so much, Rob. Okay. While I was preparing today's event, I'll go through all of your questions. You put it in Qualtrics. Thank you so much, everyone. Your questions really phenomenal. So I'm gonna ask those questions, actually, very important one to our program director. The first one also, I'm not a dietitian, so I want to know about what are our registered dietitian doing.
Great, thanks Shinyan, and thanks everyone for joining us here today. We're excited to have you on this Zoom information session. So dietetics is a very unique health professional practice in that there's many different streams. First and foremost is we are the nutrition experts when it comes to diet therapy. So dietitians can work in medical and clinical fields. You'll often find us in hospitals or long-term care homes. We also are experts in food safety. So we get training in terms of food preparation and management. So if you're curious and you're more interested in managerial side of things, you'll find us dietitians working in hospitals, managing all the food service portfolios of large institutions. And we're also the ones behind the scenes in some interesting positions still related to food service, such as airlines. So we're the ones sort of creating the menus and organizing all of that structure when it comes to meal delivery. Another thing that we do is we work in population and public health. We work in policy, so at government level and other organizations, more at the community level. You'll find us in, like myself, in academic streams. I am a registered dietitian, so we do research. We are also business and entrepreneurship streams. So people like to set up their own businesses. If it's not private practice, it could be other startups. So I've definitely seen some dietitians do phenomenal, incredible work. If it's not in the diet app industry, it's in very creative ways of managing large businesses. If it's not within food service spectrum or that type of industry environment, it could be in the private practice. And that being said, we also work in pharmaceuticals. So you'll find us running around with our trunk full of all sorts of goodies as we meet health professionals across the province and provide the latest nutrition therapy or nutrition care products. If it's not to physicians, it's to other providers across the hospital. So while we focus on nutrition, we are also key members of an interdisciplinary team. So a lot of our work focuses on working in collaborative groups, particularly in the healthcare spectrum. So we're health allies with people that practice occupational therapy, physiotherapy. We work with physicians. We work alongside nurses, because each one of, as a health ally, we're the nutrition experts. So whenever we do patient care, we are the voices that speak to that.
Wow, quite a lot of big spectrum of work that registered dietitians do. So I can see that while our student can do a lot of work in the future, research, help people given the care. So speaking of those very detailed pieces, people really want to know about what our program and structure, especially in some of the questions they're asking, what the practice education really looks like.
Yeah, so our undergraduate program is accredited. So what that means is we must follow by, if you want, rules that all dietetics programs across Canada do the same. So the idea is that by the time that you exit our program, you would have hit all the marks. So they're called competencies to be eligible to write the national exam that would be given or it's offered in 2 months of the year, in May and November of every month. So it's on our side, it's our responsibility and our commitment to you to make sure that you are eligible and you're successful. UBC has a very, very, very strong reputation of having almost 100% success rate. We set up our students for success. So that being said, our curriculum is based on all the different facets of practice that I outlined. If it's not medical nutrition therapy, so you have underlying, like curriculum on that. And I know a lot of students always ask me, why do I need biochem? Why? Well, you will learn how every single organ has its own intricacy in terms of how nutrients are sort of managed. So it's all, the method behind the madness. We have new courses that are being introduced to our curriculum this year around counseling and additional nutrition care. So students come in and they complete a series of courses, and then they're exposed to practice education, and that's formally known as internship, where we're going to send you out in pairs for 6-week placements to give you a soft introduction to what that will look like. So while those placements haven't really been set yet, we envision them to be on nutrition education focus. And the reasoning behind this is to get all your nerves out of the way and get you comfortable speaking to patients by bedside and that kind of stuff. Then you'll come back and to 2 more semesters of education, building on these key concepts, and then you're back out again in the month of May. So practice education in the first 2 years of the dietetics program occurs in the month of May, for another placement that will most likely be focused more on those managerial leadership competencies. And you'll probably find yourself more in the food service spectrum. And then you'll come back to, we'll send you back out again for your final couple blocks, year 5 of practice education. And by the end, you would have completed all the necessary competencies in all those areas I spoke to. To note that while we do hold very firm to accommodations and requests, our program is spanned across the province. So when you enter the program, the expectation is that you are aware and you are organized and willing to be placed in Northern Health Authority, as an example, in remote communities. Again, we do take into consideration, we're not, mean in that we don't. We always want to accommodate. We understand people have lives and responsibilities at home. Those are always first and foremost. People's mental health and well-being are always our key priority. But again, the expectation is that when people come into our program is that they're prepared and they're hopefully very excited to experience some really unique opportunities. And definitely some of those I know students have shared are those that when they find themselves on the island or have to move out and experience some of the northern or interior type rural practice.
Wow. That's going to be a lot of going on when you've been admitted to the program, as I put on the schedule, tentative schedule for you to see a glance of what's going on and the program while you do the practice education. So after the practice education, it comes to the end of the last question I want to ask you is, how's our graduation rates and where are those graduates now? What's the job opportunity?
Yeah, so because UBC is the only university and the only institution in the province that graduates dietitians, you're in a very, very unique situation, and there's lots of unique opportunities. Majority of our graduates get offered positions or have direction as to where they're going before they even graduate. So there's lots of opportunity in nutrition care. So that's more of those acute care or long-term care settings. Provincially, we're going to start to see lots of retirements coming through the gates. And as the province is at dire need for dietitians, we are a profession as ones to watch, meaning that there's lots of job prospects out there for us. You're in a really wonderful position to pick up work pretty much immediately out of the gates. It's not uncommon for dietetic students, once they exit the program, to start on contract work until you eventually get a full-time position. That's very normal, and that's something that you see across Canada. So it's not unique to British Columbia, but that's how students enter into the field. But again, we are very fortunate. In a way, it's a good and bad that we're the only institution, but in terms for you guys, it's great for you because you pretty much have pickings, and I write lots of wonderful reference letters for our year 5s when actually, as I said before, and Ali could probably contest, before they even exit the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, those are overarching but very important questions from the audience today. Thank you so much, Tamara. I also do see a lot of inquiries in our today's survey or the registration form that you do want to know about the newly launched program, Master of Nutrition and Dietetics. But today's event, I just want to say that we want to focus mainly on the undergrad programs, admission procedure, and admission policies, this and that. I posting our MMD website actually into the chat. You can go through and find out that there's a link for you to register the next info session, which is coming at the same time, 4 to 5 p.m. Next Wednesday. So I'll post another info session here with you so you can raise a lot of questions about MMD. Okay, speaking of admission procedure and requirement, I want to pass the talking stick to Ali, and she will present shortly about the important pieces about the admission.
Great, thanks, Dinyan, and thanks, Tamir, for that overview of the program. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see so many people on the call today. My name is Ali Browse. I'm one of the education coordinators, as Dinyan said, for the program, and I'm involved in a range of aspects, including admissions, and I do a lot of student support, particularly support for our students that are in placements across the province for their practice education component of the program. And I am a dietitian by background. The majority of my work has been in clinical pediatrics, and I've now been at UBC for the last 2.5 years. So I see a lot of great questions coming in on the Slido. That's fantastic. I look forward to kind of walking through some of those with you guys. I thought we would just give kind of a high level overview of the application process, again, for the undergrad program. So to start, I wanted to highlight 2 important websites to reference. So number 1 is the UBC academic calendar, and then 2 is the UBC Dietetics program website. So both of these sites have all of the information you need, including the admissions requirements and the application process. And thanks, Xinyan, for putting those in the chat. The UBC academic calendar is the official record of program requirements. And so I would really encourage everyone to review the academic calendar in detail before applying. And then next, the UBC Dietetics program website, specifically the prospective student section, contains all of the specifics of the application process, including the deadlines, as well as all of the prerequisite requirements and the written package application guidelines. So lots of information. Again, we're not going to go through all of it and kind of piece by piece. Like, this will be kind of the high level overview, and then we'll go into some questions. Xinyan, can you move us to the next slide?
Yeah.
Thank you. So in regards to the kind of academic requirements, in order to be eligible for entry into the 3rd year of the undergrad program, starting next September, so September 2022, you must have a minimum of 54 requirements before April 30th of next year. So this means that the earliest that anyone can apply to the program is in their 2nd year of postgraduate or of studies. But many students do apply later than this as well. And so, we do see students that have a lot more than 2 years of kind of postgraduate studies. Some students will already have a degree. Some students may have done, 2 or 3 or 4 years of kind of studies at a university before applying. The minimum GPA cutoff is 70%. However, I will note that sometimes the cutoff ends up being a little bit higher than this, just based on who applies. And then the GPA is calculated using the prerequisite requirements, as well as any year 3 and 4 required courses that you have already completed. And then the non-academic component of the application program. So this includes a written package that's submitted when you apply to the program by the last Friday in January. And then there's also an interview for shortlisted candidates as well. So the written package consists of cover letter, which is a maximum of 1 page long, and then a resume, which is a maximum of 2 pages long, and 2 references as well. And again, the full instructions and all the criteria are listed kind of in detail on the program website. So I hope everyone's able to find that link and look at, there's a PDF document that goes through all of the requirements on there. A couple things to note is we no longer have a restriction on the number of times students can apply to the program. In the past, you may have recalled, if you haven't applied in the past, there was a limit. So if you wanted to apply for a 3rd or 4th time, you had to get special approval. You can apply as many times as you wish, as you kind of refine your application process package. And then the dietetics program applications are submitted online, and there's a link on the application information sheet to access this Qualtrics survey that's used to submit your application. We really want to emphasize that there are many different ways to achieve the relevant experiences and kind of showcase your individual skills and qualities that you've developed during your academic, employment, volunteer, and personal experience. And so everyone wants to know kind of what kind of the gold standard or like the secret key is and to applications, and truthfully, like really kind of reflecting on your unique experiences and who you are and what you're going to bring, reflecting on the skills and abilities that are required of you in the program too, is probably the most helpful and important thing that we can really highlight for you as well. I also just want to note that every year the admissions criteria they're revised for kind of ongoing process improvements. This year modifications were pretty minor again, but if you are familiar with the previous year's requirements, then really you should always review the information on the website and academic calendar to make sure that you're looking at the most up-to-date information.
Well, that's everything, right? And I do actually want to ask a question. I think you already answered, Ali. There's lots of students asking, what is the perfect, or what is a standard qualified application looks like? I think you already highlighted some pieces. There's no actually golden answer.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could, right? But again, we're not looking for kind of a set of like homogenous applications. We're looking for you to kind of reflect on your own unique individual skills and qualities and some of the experiences that have helped create you who you are too, right? Maybe some of them are academic, some of them may be from work or volunteer experiences. Some of them are just from your personal life. Maybe you're really involved in food and the care of others in your personal life too, right? And so a strong kind of reflection on those and how you've kind of grown and developed and the qualities that you're going to bring to kind of learn and grow in the profession are really helpful skills to have and to highlight to help us know, right? Again, this is kind of a relationship. We want everyone to be successful when they enter the program, and we want to know that what skills you're bringing so that you are successful. So there isn't, unfortunately, a gold standard because we actually don't want to admit all of the same people. We're all different and we all have different skills. And so really kind of a strong reflection on, your skills and what you've learned and how those can be applied to the program and the profession is most important.
Awesome. Thank you, Ali. All right, so as I planned, we very nicely finished the opening part within 23 minutes. So we're gonna move into the Q&A section, which will give you the stage to raise your question. So you can go back to the chat and find the link to click and go into the Slido, ask your questions. I already saw a lot of questions there as well. Also, you can, if you are on your phone, feel free to do the scan of the QR code. All right, let me pull the questions to our shared screen here. Can everybody see it? Awesome. Okay, so what will happen is I will read the questions, and then anybody on the panel or maybe myself can also answer the questions there for you. All right, let's start this, the first one, highlighted and highly rated 7 sum up. Does your year standing, first year, second year, etc., impact your chances of being accepted into the program? Ali, do you want to answer this? Or Ella, do you want to answer this?
Sure, yeah, I can address this. So when we're completing your academic evaluation, your year standing is not part of the consideration. So whether you're first year, second year, university graduate will not have an impact. We'll just look at whether you've completed the prerequisite courses and calculating the average as we outlined for how it gets calculated. Of course, depending on your year level, that might also be indicative of how long you've had a chance to gain experiences. So it could have some influence, perhaps. If you have more experiences to draw on to put into your non-academic qualifications, that would definitely be something that would have an impact. But time is not the only thing that's being qualified in those non-academic qualifications, for sure.
Awesome, thank you, Ali. Oh, sorry, thank you, Ella. All right, the second one is, I heard that by 2024, you must have a master in dietetics to sit it in the RD exam. Does this apply to Canada, BC? I think maybe Tamara can answer that question.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Great question. Thanks, everyone. So no, the short is no, this doesn't apply in Canada or BC. This state is actually what's happening down in the States. So by 2024, if you're thinking of doing dietetics in the States, just note that it is going to be only offered at the graduate training level. But for us, the undergrad, and I think this is an opportunity to stress here to the group, the undergraduate dietetics program will always, always, always remain the beating heart of dietetics for the province. So while we are introducing a new stream, and I saw there were some questions below that address this, I want the group here to be rest assured that there's always opportunities and there will always remain equal opportunities for those at the undergraduate level, even as we start to introduce the masters.
Awesome, thank you, Tamara. Okay, the next one is, what range is a competitive academic average for the program? Does Ella or Ellie want to answer? Yeah, Ella can go for it.
Yeah, so the minimum average required in order to be eligible for the program is 70%. And so that's not going to be on everything. That's looking at specifically the prerequisite courses and any third or fourth year required courses that you've completed. So as long as you meet that minimum, it will be, your application will be considered. The academic average is only 35% of the total overall evaluation of your application. So what that means is that we have students every year who have a 70% average and have amazing experiences, amazing references, and interview very well and have really good good reasons to speak to you about why they're planning to be in the program and why they want to be a dietitian that get admitted to the program. And we also have students with A+ averages who have not really had the chance to build their experiences in other areas and are not accepted into the program. So I encourage you to focus on doing as well as you can and being academically prepared for the program, but to also think about it in the bigger context of your application, because your average alone is not going to get you into the program.
Okay, so one small correction is it's 30%, not 35%.
30%, sorry.
30%.
I'm out of date.
Actually, it's lower a little bit. See, we actually see your fully competence is not just the academic. It's 30% academic, 30% cover letter resume, and 30% interview plus 10% reference. So that's how the components being together when we evaluate your application.
That was such a great answer. I was just going to add, Ella, too, like, we don't kind of publish the averages. We don't share that because they change so much year to year, because again, it's such a small component of the overall scoring too, right? So it can really vary. So if you meet the minimum, like, we would encourage you to apply and really think kind of holistically in terms of your application.
Okay, the next question is, how many applications do you receive and how many usually get accepted? Okay, I can answer this question because this morning I just answered an external stakeholder regarding our admission rate. So as I look back, we have over 100 applications. I think it's 100, 102, 103 last year. we got 37 seats on board. And the year before is, I think, I remember was also close to 101 or 100, and then we have 39 students. So it varies, and then we always regularly have 36 to 38 seats there for our students. All right, the next one. I'm gonna click this off. There is an example of a UBC Dietetics application resume on UBC career site. We expect to follow this format, or would doing so be considered copying? Rob, do you want to answer this question?
Sure. That format that you see is just a suggestion. So if you want to consider using that, that's fine. I always also think sometimes if everyone's using that, maybe I want to do something a little bit different and unique. There's also, I'm going to put in the chat for you. And I'm going to screen share real quick here. Sorry, I'm going to take over for a sec. If you go to Career Advising and hit the Career Resources tab here, there's a ton of stuff that you can work on for your cover letter, resume. And so if you look at, there's a Word resume template using tables. This has been a popular one, especially for dietetics, because it would look like something like this. I've given you tons of comments. You can just get rid of them, use a table to organize, because if you look at the dietetics one, it gets a bit complicated because you have to introduce the hours with your dates. So when you're just lining things up, it gets very frustrating. So I like telling prospective dietetics students to use tables, because then you can get perfect left and right alignment. You can hide the table after, and then you can actually move chunks of your experiences around. So you can take a look at that. That's there for you to adapt and utilize on your own. And I've just given you some examples. These aren't the best, but I've given you examples of what accomplishment statements look like. So there's more than enough material and resources that I've curated for you that you can do a lot of this work on your own together. And of course, I'll be doing a bunch of webinars and stuff like that based on this sort of thing. So I just want to show you that. Again, that's, if you go to that link I put in the chat, hit career resources, there's a ton of stuff there for you to consider.
Thank you so much, Rob, for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen again.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that you can take over that easily as a host.
Oh yeah, co-host, you can just go over the top.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, will the interview be in person or online for this coming application year? Firm answer to you will be online, right? We will be continue doing this, and I think like I said in the beginning for this info session, we find this is very feasible and accessible for everybody to do so. Okay. Oh, did I click the wrong one? Sorry, maybe I skipped one question. Anyhow, I'm gonna go on the next one. So, what references are you looking for? How many, and do they need to be academic? I'm gonna start to talk about that. Maybe Ali can add on a little bit more. So for the undergrad program, basically we're looking for two, I think, somebody working with you. There are very detailed criteria and like lines help you to understand what kind of person you can looking for. Basically, the reference is not gonna be your parent or a friend who knows you. So we recommend that somebody you work with and then knows you objectively, can give you evaluation objectively. I will start with that. And Ali, do you want to add on a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, they can come from a range of different sources. Really, you want your reference to have insight into your skills and qualities for the application. So I would look at the checklist of all the things that your reference is being asked for, and just kind of think kind of back to if that reference can speak to all of those things, right? It's really challenging for us if your reference is unable to speak to a number of the indicators on that too, right? So you want your reference to be able to speak to all of those indicators, that which kind of highlight some of the big skills and qualities that we're looking for as well. And then again, just kind of paying attention to kind of who the applicant is too. So it cannot be like a fellow student or like a peer or a family member. They do have to know you kind of outside of kind of your personal domain too, to be able to speak to your skills and abilities.
Thank you so much, Ali. So the next question is a little bit about academic again. Does the GPA calculation include courses required for the third year of general F&H major, such as Chem 235, or only the required courses for dietetics? Ella, would you like to give some answer?
Yeah, so the GPA calculation for admission to dietetics will only include the dietetics prerequisite courses. So Chem 235 is not required for dietetics, won't be in your average. Same thing with math. Math is not a listed prerequisite, so your math grades won't be in there. Same thing with electives. So we're specifically looking at the same courses for all students so that we have that same baseline to work on, that are the courses that are required in order to be a part of the program.
Thank you so much, Ella. The next one is very excellent. Exactly how is UBC ensuring the admissions process is equitable for racialized students and also for those who are LGBTQ2+, disabled, health conditions, incomes, question mark. I think that questions I can throw to Tamara. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. I can start addressing it, and Ali, who, as you all now know, is very involved in more of the admissions portfolio of the program. I will say that our program has gone through quite a deep dive into our admissions criteria and processes, policies, and procedures as they relate to EDII, so equity, diversity, inclusion, and Indigenous focus. We've outsourced this to 2 external companies, and we have a set of recommendations that we are going to be starting to slowly put into our admissions processes. If it's not through, for instance, reserve seats. So to note, we do have 2 reserve seats for individuals who identify as Indigenous. Doing some survey on this to make sure that our admissions are attracting people, visible minority, etc., as listed here. So yeah, we are starting the process. You might not see it necessarily come through the gates for this round, but it's definitely very high on our radar. We also are very fortunate in our faculty. If you're not at UBC, we do have a new Associate Dean of EDII, Dr. Will Valley, who's instrumental also in guiding us through this. So this is something, again, that's very much, on that urgent, we're really working towards this, but at this point, this is where we're at. Ali, anything to add or?
Yeah, Ali, we just recently added something onto the application portal, right?
Yeah. So, Tamara,
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We've had 2 consultants kind of review our process and provide kind of some suggestions and feedback for changes. And we're continuing to kind of incorporate some changes into our program. One piece that Zinyan, I think you're kind of speaking to, is in our application process. Now you will see that there is some additional questions that we are asking applicants that you are not required to share, and they are in no way linked to your application process, but it's to help us better understand who our applicants are and to help us better evaluate post admissions to ensure that we have kind of a fair and equitable process and make sure that we're not kind of unintentionally missing anyone in a marginalized group. And so really helping us understand who's applying will help us best evaluate our program criteria. But again, we are so fortunate to get to work with a number of consultants to help us kind of continue to make program changes, particularly for admissions, to ensure that they're equitable.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I chime in to as an outsider, for everyone on this call to also understand, really want to give kudos to the dietetics team, because they've done a lot of consulting with a lot of us. So something, for instance, I brought up was the fact that, in previous years, it was very you needed dietetic specific experience. And I brought up well, that's really tough for some students where they're working part-time and, if there's a lot of relevant experience that they could do. And so, I don't think the team really actually needed to fix things in many ways, but they were saying like, well, how can we do things better? So there have been a lot of other things in the back end that you might not be realizing, but it was great because then last year we were seeing I know when I was seeing a lot of resumes, much more diverse things and people believing that they could actually apply. Because before it's like, if you didn't have the self-advocacy to approach a dietitian, have contact connections, which a lot of us don't have, it was very hard for people to see them applying into that. So those are just like some touches that I just want to, again, give kudos to everyone. I think of course, there's still a system. It's still a competition. I wish we could take that away, but that's not what we can do. But they have done a lot of other things to increase opportunities for people to actually apply. So I want to just acknowledge that.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Oh, go ahead, Tamara.
I feel like we're both going to reiterate. Thank you, Rob. But again, if you have to hear it again, and sometimes you need to hear it in multiple forms, we can't stress enough that applicants, you could come in and be very successful, as Rob said, without having ever worked with the dietitian. I mean, we hope you know what dietitians do, but you don't need the hands-on experience. You absolutely do not need a reference. You could, from a dietitian, we have individuals who come in who were, previously in the police workforce, mechanics. We attract a whole slew, and those interpersonal, collaborative, team building skill sets is what we're looking for. So exactly to Kim's point, dietetics is, a profession that really relies on working with people in one shape or forms, and you can get that skill set from many, many different environments, and that's what we want to see.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everybody's answer. I think that really addressed that big question. Going on, the next one was also related to our process. How many people are shortlisted and do the interview? So Ali, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so typically in the past, we've shortlisted between 50 to kind of 55 applicants up to, so again, it a little bit relates to ensuring everyone kind of meets the minimum requirements first, and then our capacity to interview as well too. So I'd say, probably 50 to 60% of applicants get interviewed.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm involving some administrative work for recruiting and finding our volunteers, registered dietitian, to sit on the admission committee. So we're really working on to have more people. So then the capacity is bigger and we can interview more students. So we do working on that for you now. All right. The next question is also a very great one. That was also the question when I joined the program. If there's such high demand for dietitians, why the program is so small and selective? Admission is so tough.
Yeah, so we're in a very unique time, I guess you could say, with UBC Dietetics, in that we are introducing a whole way new of curriculum, of education, and with that, I just want to acknowledge that. The challenge for us on an institutional side is we need to find preceptors. So those are individuals who can survey your practice as you're out there in order to meet the competencies. So in the old framework, it was a lot more harder to find this. And now with the new program structural changes that this cohort in 2022 will be in, it will be easier. I want to also address, Shinyan, there's the third question on the screen sort of speaks to this. So while there is a high demand for dietitians, it's the way that the program was structured. It didn't allow for an expansion. And the expansion piece for the province is the master's degree. So that's why I was stressing that the undergraduate program will remain status quo. We are restructuring the program so that it can allow for the expansion, and the expansion is the master's program. So the undergraduate program number in terms of admissions will remain the same, anywhere from 36 to 38 flux, but that has to flux with the admissions for the master's degree. So I hope that answers both of those questions.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And Ali, go ahead. I see you've unmuted. Please fill in those gaps.
No, I mean, I think, that was a great overview. The system was kind of built to support, the workforce needs in the past, 2 decades ago, and then we needed to kind of change the structure and the system to meet some new demands. And definitely there's a huge kind of shifts in the workforce, and we're realizing that, and the Ministry of Health realizes that, and so there's a lot of kind of pieces that need to come into play. Also, the program is a bit more resource intensive than a typical undergrad degree, just in terms of, like Tamara said, there's some bottlenecks, like supporting students for that academic learning in the practice setting.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think I can take off 2 questions now. And going on, it's also a very practical one. I like that. I noticed in an example resume that names of the dietitians who the student volunteered with were written on the resume. Is this permitted or expected? Ali, you've reviewed those cases before, and do you know like how we deal with this?
That's kind of evolved from past development of kind of examples, but you don't need to include the name of the dietitian. You do need to include the organization that you worked or volunteered with, but the specific name of the dietitian there is not necessary. I'll let Rob add if I've missed anything incorrect there.
Yeah, I guess maybe the one complication is if that dietitian is like self-employed or something like that. So you might again need that name there. So, but like I said, it was again 2 years ago. You saw everyone peppering in these names and dropping names, and I know for a fact that people got in without having those names in that resume last year, and that's why this year too I would expect some of that. So having dietetics related experience, of course, is great. It's a way to convey your understanding of the profession, but it's not the only way. Now, that does mean that you do have to require to actually write and practice writing a little bit more, because sometimes your experience is not necessarily explicit to those readers. So I do want to acknowledge that, but like anything, it takes a little bit of writing practice.
Yeah, and you can if you want, but there's by no means it's not an indicator for kind of reviewing. But if you want to share, I've got to know, what a dietitian does in a neuro setting, based on some additional work experience. Like if you want to note it, you can, but it's by no means a requirement or an indicator when we review it.
Awesome, thank you for both. The next one I think is for Ella. If you were to repeat a required prerequisite course, would both grades be considered in the GPA calculation? How we do this?
Yes, so if you've repeated a course, we will use both grades in the calculation of your admission average. So rather than say using them both equally, those 2 grades would be averaged together and be weighted as 3 credits worth of your average. So if you repeated FNH 200, we would use both attempts together, and that would be 3 credits of your average calculation. And then we've got a couple more grade ones, so I can just keep going on a roll here.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
As we're talking about grades. If you have less than 70% but lots of experience, are you still considered? We will look at, if you're close to that average, I'd encourage you to get in touch with us and talk about an application, because we can definitely look at how that exactly is getting calculated. The other thing we will do too is that if you are currently in progress in courses or prerequisites, so say you're a current student and you have courses that you're taking in January to April, that will be part of your admission calculation. If you're not at 70% right now, but you still have courses in progress that could get you there, we will still move you forward through the process as we're reviewing to see, yeah, there's still room there for things to move around and for it to become a minimum 70% average. So if you have strong other experiences, I would encourage you to still bring your application forward. And then we got one more there for grades. What if you got a bad grade in one of the prerequisites, bringing the GPA down, especially for courses taken online in the beginning during the pandemic? We'll sort of look at things on a case-by-case basis. And we know, like for students that were at UBC in spring 2020, there were some options available for switching things over to credit D fail standing or pass fail standing. if you have questions about those things, that's the kind of thing I encourage you to get in touch with us in advance of your application so we can kind of look at it, because we don't want to make hard and fast rules that are going to eliminate good applicants, but we also want to make sure that we're making decisions in a fair and equitable way.
Awesome, thank you. Where can we find volunteering opportunities with dietitians? Okay, so I'm going to post to you a link that is available on our website, list out all the resources that you may look at it. But meanwhile, Ali, do you want to add on a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. I think if you take a look at the link that Zinyan's gonna post in terms of some organizations that you may want to, kind of explore and reach out to, we in the past have run kind of a volunteer, a listserv to kind of connect prospective students with dietitians in the province, and we no longer do that for kind of a number of reasons, but would encourage you to kind of look at the website that Zinyan has. We also will ask prospective kind of employers if they're looking for either if they have work opportunities or volunteer opportunities, we'll direct them to Careers Online to kind of showcase and post some of those as well too, as options too.
Awesome, thank you. Will students in the undergrad program have different qualification than those with the master degree career-wise? I guess this is the MMD that the students mentioned. So
Yeah.
Tamara, do you want to address that?
Yeah, so both programs are entry to practice. That means both programs will set you up with the exact same competencies to write the exam, the national exam, successfully. So the answer is no. The main difference between the two programs is one is at an undergraduate level, the other is at a graduate training level. And at graduate training level, like all graduate training degrees, definitely has a heavier focus on research. So there is a capstone research project. Courses slightly differ, but in terms of endpoint competencies, they're the exact same. I noticed there's a question that is in here. So again, the undergraduate program will remain capped at about 36 applicants per year. The master's program for the first year will accept 10 students, and we're going to slowly increase that to a maximum and capped 20 student cohort. So we'll eventually have quite a large group of students exiting per year. But yeah, so you can check that off when you see that.
Awesome, thank you. So the coming up one is, what if my prerequisites at another institution, how does the GPA translate? So there's a little bit procedure that in the application, we also mentioned that you need to check, first of all, the UBC transfer guide tool, BC transfer guide, and also that there's two steps of application. And so the first one is you apply to be a Bachelor of Science in Food, Nutrition, Health. So that step that helps us to complete the transfer of your credit, and we will check it out. Ella, do you want to add on more?
Yeah, I'm going to pop a link into the chat that's from the Dietetics website, which is how we calculate your GPA. This is specifically if you have a transcript that lists just letter grades but doesn't list percentage grades. So if you're a student at UBC, you know that your transcript lists letter grade as well as your percent grade. So we use that percent grade in calculating your average. If you are coming in as a transfer student and your transcript shows a letter grade only, if you look at the PDF I linked in the chat, you'll see the translation of how we use that, how we translate that letter grade to a percentage grade on the UBC grading scale. If you are coming from another type of schooling system that uses a different type of grading system other than percentage or a 4-point GPA letter grade scale, get in touch with us and we'll do a little bit more digging into how we're going to calculate your average.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, with the new master's program, will the value of the undergrad dietetics program go down in comparison in the job market?
No.
Interesting question. No.
No. Again, no. To answer it, no.
No.
I can also just address the very last question that students cannot transfer from the undergraduate program to the master's. They're
Thank you so
completely
much.
separate entities. You are either admitted to the undergraduate program or you're admitted to the master's.
Okay, going on. Thank you so much, Tamara. If I want to be a dietitian, what should I do on my first year? Great questions. So lots of things I think you can start think about is, first of all, we have a big component of looking at your resume and cover letter. So first year, think about your time and how you can go for volunteer, find resources, right? Also get in touch with us, get your prerequisite courses done. Those are the things that you can start to plan. And any other things people want to add on to the panelist?
Yeah, I'll just say if you're planning to apply for dietetics, we really encourage you to apply to the Bachelor of Science in Food Nutrition and Health degree program. You can come in from many other degree programs or transfer in from another college or university, but if you're following the general food nutrition and health major in the BSFN program at UBC, that'll cover most of the dietetics prerequisites, and there's room to cover the other ones within your elective courses. So it is designed to give you an option to build in towards the dietetics major in the future.
Oh, thank you so much, Ella. Yeah, that's a good point. Apply to our BSFN. What type of experience are you looking for in an applicant? I think we addressed those issues before, but maybe we can reiterate it by Ali. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. And I'm watching the time go.
Oh yeah, we only have
This
a little
goes,
bit.
yeah, we only have a little bit. So I would draw your attention to the applicant information package, because it does really just list out there some of the things that we want in terms of experience. We want to know, what is your rationale for pursuing, this degree? Tell us a little bit about, why you're interested, some experience related to food or nutrition or dietetics. And again, we give some examples that can be from a range of different things, and communication related experience, both kind of verbal and written communication. And again, there's some examples there in the information package.
And one more for you as well. I think this is one that just coming up. Just to confirm, the reference can be any outside resources, and it can be all academic, for example, profs. So
Yeah, so they can be from outside sources. If they were to be from a prof, it can't just be from kind of a prof that only knows you purely from the academic setting. So they don't know you outside of class. We ask that they either you've worked on a project with them or some other way for them to speak. Again, it's really hard for a professor, if you're doing, if you're in a large class and they don't really know you, to really kind of thoroughly speak to all of the skills and qualities on that reference form. So you will notice that is one of the questions that we've asked you to review, and ask that it's from someone, if it's from an academic setting, that they know you outside of the classroom as well.
Can I chime in there? Because it kind of addresses that first, like that person asking what they can do in first year. Like, quality of references, that's a hard thing to get like very quickly. So in first year, it's actually identifying like who are you building relationships that at the end of the day you can trust, that's going to give you a quality reference, because it's actually pretty sometimes easy to see when someone's writing how well they know you. Are they broad, or are they being specific? So again, for first year, it's like, how are you building these relationships? How are you doing that? And that's something that you can start right away, which again goes to two things I think about: is think about potential new experiences, but also practicing thinking about your current ones and how you write about them. I mean, every year I meet someone, I ask them a few things and they don't include very interesting things. Like one person left out that they were on a UBC ultimate team, dance team, like you name it. People leave things out because you don't believe you're unique or these things are special. And so first year, it's actually just working on that as well. It's always interesting to me what people don't include on their resume.
thank you so much, Rob. So there are some questions about the MMD. I'm going to quickly answer it because we have the other sessions you can join. The first one is, does master student accept students from any undergraduate degree? The short answer is yes. And how that will be deal and process, we can talk about more in the MMD info session. Do you expect the MMD program to be more competitive than the undergrad? Comparing the ratio of the students that are accepting related to the amount that apply. Short answer, I think we don't know. This is the first year we are having MMD. We are open for application. We welcome applications. So the general answer is no. Tamara, do you think, right? It's like
The same. It's going to be competitive.
yeah. Okay.
Last question.
Oh wow, last question. any advice for students who were shortlisted last year and are now applying for the second time? Do we have an answer from that?
I think I would just say, look at your application and get some feedback on it from other people too, right? Get some either peer or feedback from mentors or someone in terms of, this is my application. Can you take a review of it and give me some feedback on it too, right? Again, some years it's really competitive, and unfortunately we have more applicants like we'd love to just admit, so everyone too, right? So sometimes it just depends on the year, but again, I would just really encourage kind of that reflection, look back at the criteria, ask others for kind of some support and guidance on what else you think you could change to make improvements.
Okay, time goes to an hour, and I'm very sorry that maybe we cannot address all of the questions here. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip my screen to an email that you can contact. So when we are talking about, sorry, so you see my name and my picture beside, there's an email address, dietetics.admissions@ubc.ca. Sorry, due to the time issue, we are not going to continue to answer the questions in the Slido, but I welcome everybody, shoot me an email and I can answer general questions. And if something we can discuss or need to be discussed at another level, I will also triage for you, okay? And thank you so much, everybody, for joining today's session. And thank you so much for our panelists staying with us very late to 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.